Welcome everybody to today's live chat with Reuben Langdon. It's going to be a real fun one. We're looking forward to that. Sorry for the late start, guys. Had some tech issues down here, down under. Pouring with rain and Reuben, you can hear me, mate?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me?
We are live, brother. Sorry about the delay. I hope you're doing well, mate. Can you hear me? Reuben? Reuben? Can you hear me? You can hear me, I can't hear you. Okay. That could be on my end. Let me just check. I think it might be on your end, brother. No worries. Sorry guys, as we get this is what happens with Zoom, everybody in chat. There's always issues, eh? Ruben knows. Who wins a battle, Alcina or Dante? Oh, it's got to be Dante, doesn't it? Has to be. With our man in here now. I heard you before. That's the only thing. I swear I heard you, and then something ticked over, Reuben. I did hear you for a second there. That's what's weird. Yeah, I think it's you. I'm looking here. Um, yeah. Love this guy. Yeah. Love Reuben. Just wish you could hear him. At least he's laughing, you know. My man Reuben. Yo, my name's Reuben as well. There you go. Wow. I think you're the only Reuben I know, you two. There's not many Reubens down in Australia. He's unable to talk to humans, that's why. Are you a demon? No bioweapon can defeat Dante.
All
There we
right.
go. I've got you now. I can hear you.
You got me now. Okay.
Yes.
Sweet. So interesting. I guess my microphone, which I tested before this, is not working. Crazy. Hold on a second.
Did it get unplugged, like at the bottom or anything? That can sometimes happen.
It's got a red light. Oh, you know what? Can you hear me still?
Yeah. I can hear.
All right. Hold on one second. Let me just.
Oh, there we go.
All right.
There's the quality just lifts. Look at that.
Yes. All right. There. they should put next to the mute button, they should put a settings like little thing, because I'm looking everywhere for settings, and there it's next to the mute button, but it's like a little tab. Anyways, sorry about that. I tested all this before you got on, so I was like, what's going on here?
And of course, when it goes live, it just stuffs up.
Right.
Eh? That'd be the way. How have you been, mate?
Good. It's trying times for many, but I've been very blessed where I'm at, out in the country, and growing some food and getting ready for the apocalypse.
You're growing some food, are you? What are you growing? Everything and everything?
Pretty much kale, Swiss chard, radishes, tomatoes, eggplant, a lot of herbs, a little bit of the special herb. It's legal here. And
hold on, where are you based again? LA?
Just outside of LA.
Yeah.
It's in the mountains in Big Bear, California.
Nice.
Kind of near Palm Springs.
I guess you have to be there for all your jobs.
Well, up until last year, yeah. Up until
last year.
Crazy shift in world events. I've worked a few times. I've gone back down the hill to do some work, and it's a different vibe. It's a different world for sure. We've definitely have entered a new phase in humanity and how we operate. And I think it's temporary, but I definitely think there's no going back to the old ways.
Really? So how long do you think it'll last, in your opinion, this whole thing?
It depends on how fast people decide to become their own sovereign beings and not rely on certain groups to tell them what to do, or to sort of be enslaved by the systems that were in place that are collapsing now. And that's I think the faster that we can get our act together as sovereign human beings, the faster we can transition into this new reality that will uplift everybody, and instead of this sort of hierarchical pyramid system that will kind of shift into and become flattened, and then we all uplift each other, as opposed to trying to fight and tear at each other to get to the top.
Do you think things like social media and that are a burden or a bad thing in that respect, or what?
It can be. There's social media. I don't want to put the blame on social media or any technology, which is what a lot of people quickly do. But just like with any tool, like a hammer, it could be used to build or it could be used to destroy. And it's really on the user. Same, we have the gun law situation throughout the world, but especially here in the States, it's quite an issue. And again, it's a tool, and so much of the focus becomes about the guns themselves, which is a very valid subject, but it's really about the user of the gun. Obviously, the gun itself is built to destroy its purpose, but it's also built to protect in cases. And a lot of people forget the uses of these tools and just focus on the tools themselves. So, like guns, social media can be used to manipulate and to push specific agendas, and it can also be used to connect people and to spread information in a positive and good way. And we just have to be aware of these uses and try not to become victim to the negative uses of these technologies.
So you don't mind there being guns in Australia, in America? Because I know in Australia right. It's a lot different here. I can't have a gun in my house.
Yeah, it is. Unfortunately, I think with the situation and now the sort of the argument up until now was, people need guns to protect themselves.
Yeah.
and against tyranny, and this is why it's in the U.S. Constitution. And we are now seeing this play out now in a way that is sort of validating that argument.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you guys don't have guns, and I think that's why the military's been deployed over the weekend to lock down things. And I think that's, and in Europe as well, most European nations don't have guns, and I don't think, or it's more difficult to get access to them than here in the States. And I think that's probably the reasons why we don't have military in our streets just yet.
Right. So how do you I want to get into all the stuff you're doing now. I will ask you the gaming question now, just to get that out of the way.
Sure.
Because a lot of people do know you, of course, as Dante and all your other roles, Chris Redfield, motion capture. Maybe just give us a rundown of that career and how you fell into it, and if the passion's still there for you.
Yeah. So video games, I've always been an avid gamer since a young age.
Can I ask, are you still a gamer now or not?
Not so much now.
Yeah.
Occasionally I'll get a couple of rounds of Street Fighter in, and that's about
nice.
That's about all I can. I just got so many other focuses and attentions that I love games so much that once, especially RPGs or something like a Last of Us type game, I know once I start, then that's it. Because I think a pretty good self-discipline, but once I start these things, nothing gets done, and then the rest of life goes on hold. My vegetables probably won't get watered, and then I have to be like, oh shoot. So I kind of stay away from games, other than getting a few rounds of Street Fighter in, because it's quick and easy. Get a couple rounds, get my butt kicked.
Who do you main?
Kick some ass. Of course, Ken.
I was gonna maybe you had someone else, but yeah.
Yeah, my backup's E-Honda, but
okay.
I haven't. Yeah, I've been playing so much Ken these days.
Can you guess who I play? My name's Dan, by the way.
Well, do you really play Dan?
No, I don't. He's terrible.
Oh, okay. I know. If anybody who can play that character well, hats off.
No, yeah.
So yeah, don't do the game so much anymore. But appreciate and love that genre, and I, that was my career for such a long time. I because of my passion of the games, I followed that passion. It brought me to Japan, and while in Japan, I sort of fell into acting as a means to pay the bills. I wasn't really that passionate about it at first. I was very timid and shy, and really hated being in front of on stage or in front of the camera, and I sort of did it a few times and kind of got used to it. I'm like, okay, this isn't so bad. It pays well. I can put food in my mouth. So I continued with it, and then I started to realize, okay, once I got over this fear of being in the limelight, that it's actually not so bad. It's actually a fun job creatively. I can take this art known as acting, and I can receive these characters, put my own little twist in there, and sort of I started to realize what a great creative outlet this is, and then combining that with my love of video games and technology, then I started my own motion capture studio, and I started getting into the motion capture visual effects realm, and working on many big titles, helping to produce the cinematic cutscenes, and had a good run at that for about a decade, simultaneously pursuing a stunt and acting career, working on films like Avatar, and I worked on Charlie's Angels, Pirates
Just
of the
a couple
Caribbean.
of small films.
Yeah, just a couple of small films. And it was great. I had a great
What
time.
are the sets like for those films, by the way?
Oh, it's just epic. I
Yeah.
mean, Pirates of the Caribbean, when we had the two ships, that was the main scene I worked on, when the two ships were going around this sort of big vortex of some sort. It was part 3. And they literally built these epic big boats, right? And then green screen all around, and this massive rain
really?
system.
Far
And
out.
we're, swinging from one ship to the other, and we're battling each other, and explosions. And we did that for a couple months, and it was pretty intense in this giant airplane hangar out in the desert.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, just talk about epicness and and size of production, right? It was quite the experience, and forever grateful for that experience. And then getting into the games and developing, working with developers and game creators, and just what a blessed career I've had in all of that, and then getting to become this iconic role of Dante and Devil May Cry, doing the motion and the voice. It's another just privilege and an honor to give life to these characters, to assist the creators of the game, because it's not all me. It's definitely the team of the writers, the creators of the video game, the property, Capcom, and the story writers, Itsuno-san, the game mechanics, and all of this stuff. So it's just that perfect combination of all of this talent coming together, which then the user and the player gets to experience. So having a small part in that is always an honor, and forever grateful, like I said. So just over the years, my interest is sort of
I know your interest
directions.
has gone in other directions, but if they asked you to come back for Devil May Cry 6 or whatever the next one would be, would you do that, or are you just not in that realm now?
I would. I mean, to reprise any old roles, especially those iconic roles like Dante, I would not pass on that in a heartbeat. It looks like they've already sort of replaced me on Chris, since the latest rendition I saw came out, and they didn't invite me back for that role, which was sad. But I also at the same time, like, okay, it's that role I'm ready to pass the baton. I think it's we need to move on. It was a good character to portray, and again, honored all these years to play that role.
Well, that might be to do something non-union versus union, maybe.
I work on both.
Oh, do you? Okay.
So I don't know what the politics or the mechanics of that was, or maybe different. These new projects, they have new producers, and a lot of them don't even know the history, and sometimes it's just a okay, we're gonna audition and
go
do
fresh.
They don't even so they don't. So the producers that I've worked with over the years, Mr. Kobayashi from Capcom, he's been adamant about constantly, whenever Chris is there, make sure Reuben gets a phone call at least, and we'll give it up to him to pass. So he's probably not the producer on this one. It's probably a different guy. So they probably don't know that history, and that's my guess. So it and totally understandable, and I'm sure the new guy is awesome and is holding that role up to the years that I've sort of helped set it up. So hopefully it's moving on to the next stage. But for Dante, absolutely, I would definitely come back. For that.
Someone in the chat said something about that Hercules poster in the background that you've got there.
The unicorn?
The unicorn. Yeah, sorry, the unicorn poster. What is that? They want to know the story behind.
So I worked on the show. It was a kid's show called Kickin' It. It was on Disney XD. and it was went on for 4 years. But for the pilot, I worked on the pilot in the first few episodes as the stunt coordinator. And there's a character in the show called Bobby Wasabi, and
Bobby
the idea
Wasabi.
was, and the idea was he was kind of based off of like Chuck Norris or like Steven Seagal, these old 80s, 70s and 80s iconic action stars. So he had they needed this character which they hadn't cast, but they're like, hey Reuben, could you like do some martial arts and take some pictures and do some stuff? So I in 2 hours I just did a bunch of poses and flying kicks and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then they ended up taking all these pictures and creating a whole slew of really crazy posters. This is just one of them.
Right.
Posters and paintings and stuff. So later in the series, they go to Bobby Wasabi's house, who's now portrayed by another actor. I forgot his name, but he is sort of washed up, overweight, in his 60s, past his prime. But he has all of these iconic posters of when he was in his prime of these different films and movies.
Yeah.
So when the show finished, they were like, "Hey, Reuben, do you want
one?
This is you. It's me with a Fu Manchu mustache. Just like, this is you." And I'm like, me riding a unicorn, with this epic thing of, gotta have that for sure.
Oh man!
So
And
I've
is
got
that
a whole stack of them in my garage? There's a ton of.
Oh, maybe you'll give one away one day, hey?
Yeah, I think I will.
Is that a Viva Vendetta mask as well, right behind your ear?
It is V Vendetta Anonymous. One of my favorite characters that in the films. It stands for so much, right? It's to be. I love
what a great movie.
Love the movie, and if anybody wants to know what's going on now, just go watch that movie. It's like a perfect rendition of what's happening.
Well, isn't that weird,
time. Yeah,
that's bizarre.
They really knew what they were doing when they made that.
We are going to get into your stuff. I've just got 2 quick questions here from the audience. Sure. First one, Julia says, "Hi, Mr. Langdon. I wanted to ask you, were you aware of Dante's appearance in SMT3 Nocturne before you voiced him in the remaster, and that he was based off the DMC2 appearance?" Now, that's above my pay grade. I hope you know what that meant.
I was aware, and I did know that. So it made it that much more exciting when they called me back to do that role, or to do the voice for that character. Because I was like, wait, I didn't originally, DMC2 wasn't me, but this is cool. I get to, play this version of this character that I'm known for, and sort of, put my stamp on there. So that was fun.
Cool. And Mark, replacing Reuben as Dante would be like replacing Christopher Reeve as Superman. You couldn't do it. It'd suck big time.
I would agree.
All right. Now, I want to ask you about this new venture of yours. Talk to me about it, how you got into it, and where you're at now with it all.
Yeah. So in 2007, I had a UFO sighting, which blew my mind, as most people who have these things happen to them.
Can you go into that, or is that something is private?
No, sure.
No.
I've shared it many times.
Yeah.
It was simply, I was, at the time I was working on the film Avatar, and my mind was getting blown every day on set because YouTube had just come out, and I was working with this incredible team, James Cameron, and the team that he put together, and working on this incredible film, which at the time was top secret. I couldn't talk about it, but working with indigenous Native Americans and studying different indigenous cultures from around the world, including the Maoris from New Zealand, Aborigines in Australia, different cultures that I hadn't been exposed to in my action fighting career. And so the Na'vi were modeled after all of the indigenous people of the world, not one specific. Heavy Native American influence because we've shot the film in America, but
Took everything into account. Yeah.
Yeah, really, Jim had put on the walls of the production studio all over the place. We had pictures of different indigenous and their costumes and their regalia and just different types of people from all over the world. And that was the inspiration for designing the Na'vi. So it wasn't one specific indigenous culture. It was sort of taking these pieces. So as a performer acting and becoming a Na'vi, I had to get familiar with some of these practices, some of these ideas, some of these belief systems. And I learned about the Amazon jungle ceremony ayahuasca, which is it's a psychedelic tea that is done in ceremonial cases for healing purposes. And in fact, Jake Sully in one of his in a scene that didn't quite make it was based off of ayahuasca, which he gets a stab from a worm or something, and that's what initiates this sort of psychedelic experience. And
they removed
space. And they it didn't make it to the final cut, but you can find it online. I think I actually just tweeted it a couple weeks ago.
Oh, cool.
I think I put it up on my own YouTube channel. I think I reposted it. So I was one of the Na'vi in the ceremony, and Jim's explaining this ceremony to us, and I'm like, wow, okay, I did not know this. This is fascinating. So then I would go and do some research, and then I would find these different cultures, and then I started finding these through lines that these different indigenous cultures, even though they're all over the world and separate continents, they held very similar belief systems. And then I would simultaneously we're watching YouTube, and then I discovered this thing called the Disclosure Project, a 2001 event that Stephen Greer put on and had many whistleblowers to come out and talk about the fact that there's an ET presence, an extraterrestrial presence, and that the government is hiding it, that there's a suppression going on, and many people from different agencies, NASA and military and whatnot, came forward to sort of disclose what they knew. So that happened, and then I'm like, okay, why didn't I know about this? Why doesn't the world know about this? And we found out about YouTube. Simultaneously, movies like The Zeitgeist came out that sort of put another perspective on the 9/11 event that happened in New York, in the planes crashing into the towers, and finding out all of this, what we term today as conspiracy theories, finding all this information, and then doing my own research and realizing that maybe some of this stuff is not so fake.
Conspiracy.
Is that the word?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe I've made that up. Yeah.
But there seemed to be truth in much of these things that people were putting out there.
Yeah.
Simultaneously, I'm meeting with indigenous elders, and they're telling me of the oppressions and the things that their culture have had to go through over the years, through modern day society and big companies and interest groups sort of doing things to their people and to their land, and this bigger story just started to fit. I saw another movie called Loose Change that mentioned fluoride, our water being fluoridated, and I'm like, what? How is that possible? And then simultaneously, CDC comes out and says fluoride is a neurotoxin, highly deadly. And then I'm like, well, why would they put that in the water? And then I would do some research, and I would find out they're actually putting fluoride in most municipal cities and across America, and I would say across the world. They actually take byproducts from steel and metal factories and aluminum and whatnot, and as it breaks down and creates fluoride, that they're actually putting in our water table. And I just found this something that you would think would just be insane conspiracies, but all this stuff started to come true. And around that time, I had my own sighting in 2007. my mind was blown. And I started going down that rabbit hole of trying to figure out, well, I saw I saw something. What did I see? And why is it why are so many other people seeing these things? And why is it such a taboo to talk about this? Why is it such a, I wasn't on any type of hallucinogenics at the time. In fact, up until that time, I had never experimented or even tried any type of hallucinogenic. Since then, obviously, ayahuasca and other ceremonial type.
Is that what people ask you when you like? Do they say, "Were you on something?" You know, is that the first thing they say? Yeah,
that's the first thing. Yeah, that's sort of the knee-jerk, built-in societal question that we have created, that the media and our culture has created to debunk or to demystify or to try to take away someone's personal experience, spiritual or extraterrestrial or whatever it is. We try to invalidate their experience, which I think is a crime against humanity. So many people are having various experiences, and we shut them down because it doesn't fit a certain paradigm. And when we start exploring those experiences, and that's what I do now as a living, I explore people's experiences that the rest of the world has sort of invalidated. And in doing so, I'm discovering a bigger picture of what reality is and what is possible, and the limitations that we've put on ourselves go away when we do that, when we explore these far out concepts and ideas. We get to have, in my opinion, a more rich life, in having open mind and possibilities, and what is, and just what is possible, and whether you're experiencing it or not, why try to take that away from somebody else who is experiencing that, as long as it's in a positive sense, as long as there's some sort of positive outcome that's coming from this. Of course, if it's negative and there's self-inflicted pain, or somebody's neglecting their responsibilities as a human to human responsibilities, as family or friends or these kinds of things, those are definitely potential outcomes to someone going too far in one direction or another, or going down a negative path. But I try to stay focused on the positive and see what positivity can be obtained from exploring these ideas.
So you started to do your research, and then you created this show out of it.
Yeah. Well, first, in 2013, I produced an event, the Citizen Hearing on Disclosure, which was a 5-day event at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. It was over 40 witnesses, mostly ex-military government officials. It was kind of like Stephen Greer's Disclosure Project, but on steroids. Instead of a 2-hour event, we did a 5-day event with 6 former members of Congress and one senator.
How'd you pull that off?
We had an investment. Luckily,
I was going to say.
Yeah, it was a $1 million plus budget.
Yeah, right.
And the investor, Thomas Clearwater, came in and invested that. And we were, the original plan was to create a film based on the event and based on some of the key witnesses. Unfortunately, our budget sort of got pulled out from underneath our feet when we got to that stage, so we could never finish the film. But the hearing archive is there. And now, thanks to Mr. Clearwater and his generosity, we're releasing the hearings for free on YouTube. And we're about a little over halfway through the release. And a new episode goes up every Friday at 12 noon Pacific time. So that's, and you can just go to Citizen Hearing on UFO Disclosure. Google that or look through that on YouTube, and citizenhearing.org is the website. So producing that, listening to the military people, having some very strange conversations with some very high up people, just piqued my curiosity even more. but also I realized that there were certain dark aspects of this subject that I didn't really want to be put into those positions.
What do you mean?
And well, the main reason for the secrecy over of this topic for so many years, it comes down to really energy and our energy paradigm, and how we understand physics and energy production. And we've been sort of told a specific narrow set of rules that this is how the universe works. This is what this is how physics work, and sort of locked into that paradigm. And in reality, when we see these, as we're now many years after the hearings, seeing the military disclosures, and we're seeing pilots like David Fravor and others talk about what they're seeing and experiencing. And we know for sure now, if there was any doubt, you could just watch the 60 Minutes piece that came out a couple of weeks ago or months ago. And all these, more mainstream disclosures. These craft are not running on traditional propulsion. They're not burning gas. They're not creating explosions to propel themselves in and through space. Or the air. They're not using aerodynamically correct physics. They're doing something completely different that is non-conventional. And what that is it's an alternative energy source. And depending on the craft, there's many different types of energy sources. And some of the best testimony we have is from Bob Lazar, who actually was working at S4 just outside of Area 51 and reverse engineering some of these craft. And he talks a lot about some of the physics and how they propel themselves. So when we start to get out of this very narrow paradigm of how the universe works, and we can start opening ourselves up to bigger ideas and perhaps constructing some on our own, some of these alternative ways of using energy, harnessing energy that exist, then that becomes a direct threat to the energy industry, which is the largest industry in the world and the most powerful and the biggest players. If you look at the money structure and how we even observe and can see money is a directly correlated with energy and power and currency. If you understand even just the terms, power, currency, energy, they're all interconnected into going back to this hierarchical structure that I talked about at the beginning, is when we find alternative energy sources that we don't need to rely on these power structures, and we can turn this down sideways, then we're no longer giving our power away to a foreign source or a foreign figure, and when I say foreign, just anything outside of your own, contained area. And this is why the secrecy of the UFO phenomenon has been a secret for so long. And that truth embargo is collapsing. It's starting to fall away as we discover other energy sources on our own without the UFO technologies, solar, wind, and as they get better, we're already starting to collapse this paradigm. And I think the powers that are starting to see this, so they're loosening their grip on the information flow of the UFO phenomenon. They see that it is inevitable that we will come to a new paradigm of energy, and so expending resources on trying to contain an inevitable future I think they've reallocated some of the resources, and this is why we're seeing this breakdown in the truth embargo right now.
I got so many questions for you, mate, and a lot of people are actually enjoying this change of pace.
Very good.
On the show today. So in terms of aliens, UFOs, and that sort of thing, what can you tell me? What are they, in your opinion? Are they here right now? Like, what's your opinion on that side of things right now? Like, where are you standing with that now?
Yes, they're absolutely here right now.
Yeah,
they have been here from the beginning, since the beginning of time. And in fact, the craft that were caught, the Tic Tac UFO, so to say, that David Fravor and sort of made famous in the mainstream media, off the coast of California and the Pacific. These are craft that are actually originated from Earth. Not all of them, obviously, not all the UFOs, but that one specifically has comes and has there's bases in the ocean, and they have been here all along, sort of observing our growth in our technology and our civilization and how we've been going along doing our thing, hiding in the shadows, so to say. Not necessarily the shadows; they're at a different vibratorial frequency, so all they have to do is sort of phase in and phase out of our reality, but in a sense they're in a reality overlay on top of ours. So they like a fishbowl, they can see into the fishbowl and see us doing our thing, and from time to time pop into the fishbowl and interact with us, but they can go on the other side of the fishbowl where we can't, not just yet. So we're kind of limited to our fishbowl experience.
Wow. That is fascinating. Your explanation.
I'm going to close the blinds here because
go ahead, man. That's fascinating. So
and the military knows about this.
So how long do you think they've known about this for? And please ignore my ignorance on this subject.
Oh, no. This is most people are not going to really have this information unless they're talking to the ETs directly, and that's what my show is about. So I'm lucky. I got a lucky front row seat to a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
I think certain factions of the military have known this since the beginning of the military. But really you really have to go far and deep. The general military does not know any of this. And they've been communicating with us along certain representatives of humanity for a long time, and sort of saying, hey guys, we know you guys have your power structures in play and you're doing your thing, and we want you to do what you want to do, but eventually we're going to have to say hi to collective humanity and start interacting when they're ready, when you're ready. So they're just kind of waiting. They've kind of been waiting it out.
So you think the government are holding off on seeing these beings? Is that
well, we have to be very careful when we say the word government.
Okay.
Because our understanding of how the government structure is not really the way it is. We're given a very limited set of optics when it comes to our governmental structures. And if you watch a citizen hearing and you talk to the Congress members, they even say themselves, they are representative. They don't have a need to know on a lot of information. And even though in America and Australia, it's very different, I'm sure not that different, but kind of structurally, they've been sort of mirroring each other. But we elect our representatives, so we think. We used to. And they would come into power, and then we supposedly vote on certain things, and then they do their things and all that. They're just doing the barking orders of another group that is really...
They're just the face.
They're just the face, exactly. And there's groups within groups within groups. So the levels that we see of what is government really is not what's even the power structures that have the grip on society and reality. So we tend to get mad at the government, and it's like, well, there are actually things that we don't see that we really should be getting mad at. And these are these small groups of individuals who have taken it upon themselves to decide the fate of humanity. And these are the power structures that are falling.
Are these the big boys and the big corporations, or are these?
This is beyond corporations.
Right.
These are families mostly. I mean, I'm sure you've heard of some of these big families of the Bilderbergs and the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and this the Mellons and these kinds of families that have sort of been in charge since day one. They've and then in the Asian dynasties we have different things going on. Is there most of those dynasties have fallen and certain factions of these other groups have sort of taken over, but these are some of the players that are playing this epic cosmic game on our reality, and most of us are just not privy to it. And when you start following this UFO thread, you start to become privy to it, because you ask the questions. I ask the questions. Why is this a secret? Why is that a secret? What's that person doing over here? And why is that person being assassinated? And why is this person life is becoming terrible just because that person was part of this project and talks about it? So it's those are the structures that are falling apart now because of where humanity is moving. Many of us this information is becoming more accessible, but more so than the information, and I say this a lot, and you can let me know if you don't quite understand it, but the vibratory frequency. Nikola Tesla said, if you want to understand the universe, you have to think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And what that means is everything, sort of string theory is based off of this. Everything is vibrating at a specific harmonics, a specific rate. It's like a string that moves. So like this keyboard has a vibratory frequency that makes it the geometry that it is. If you've ever heard or seen of cymatics, which the vibration of water or salt on a plate creates specific geometrical forms. So the thing that keeps, because on a molecular level, if you go down to the microscopic molecular level of this keyboard, it's 99% air, and the atoms are so far apart that you really can't even tell what kind of structure it is. So the things that keep this structure together is the frequency of and the harmonics of this item. And each and every one of us and everything has a specific vibratory frequency. So when I say the frequency of the planet is vibrating, humming at a certain rate, which the Schumann resonance, which is just above 7 hertz, that is shifting and that's changing. And as the frequency of us individually shift more from a competitive, trying to get to the top and we got to get this and this, and we've sort of been sold that story to keep the vibratory frequency at a certain level. But many of us are realizing that there are other means and ways of operating, that we don't have to operate at that level, that we can decentralize our reality, as we're seeing with cryptocurrencies, and we can use cooperation instead of competition to achieve our goals and have a much better outcome. Then that is sort of shifting the vibratory frequency of the planet, all of us individually, and vice versa. The planet itself is sort of a living being, and she also is going through this adjustment, this desire to move into a higher vibratory frequency. And since we're all part of her, then we also by default are shifting our frequency and our vibration to go to this higher level of operation. And this is why we're seeing in our happening right now, all of this innovation around decentralization, DeFi. It's like the new big thing, and Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, all this stuff. and innovation and the internet and all of this stuff is sort of pushing us and guiding us and driving us into a vibratory frequency where these power structures cannot exist anymore. And that is why we're seeing them crumble. And that's why we're seeing them on hyperdrive right now, pushing and taking all steps, like no holds barred. We gotta inject everybody with the graphene so we can start taking over the world, because we're not gonna have a world to take over if things keep going the way they are.
So what do you
That's
think?
their mentality.
What's the next step, do you think, in all of this?
The next step is humanity coming to the realization that we are our own sovereign beings. Simultaneously, as we do that, we get exposure to our cosmic brethren, our cosmic friends and family who have been observing and watching us all this time, waiting for our vibratory frequency to shift.
So do you think this happens in our lifetime?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's happening now.
In the next, what, how many years do you think?
I'd say within the next decade will be the major shift, like the shift that once we get through this next decade, when we look back at where we were, it'll be unrecognizable. Like we were like, I can't believe we were there, and then after that, then the doors open to our cosmic.
The floodgates open, you reckon?
The floodgates open. But we're going through this time right now, and my show is a big focus on this. I interact with these beings, and they're sort of since 2014, and having these conversations with these extraterrestrial, extra-dimensional beings through the vehicle, the technology of channeling, and they have been walking me along this transformation in real time as we're going through it. And if you go back to the first episode in season 1, you watch it linearly, you will see this progression of my questions, progression of the answers, as well as the progression of where we were and where we are now. And they sort of say at that time in 2014, it's coming, here we go, get ready. And then now we're in it. And now the conversation is slightly shifted now that we're in it. But the key part of my series is having the conversation with these beings and getting this outside perspective, because they sort of have this fishbowl, as I was saying earlier. They're looking from outside the fishbowl, and they can see things in a different perspective that we can't quite see, because the way we see it's kind of blurry or whatever. They have maybe a clearer perspective on certain things they don't. And then taking this information and incorporating it into my own life personally has been quite a journey, and has helped me navigate some of the craziness that we're seeing.
What do friends and family think of this, the new lease on life that you've had over the last 7 or 8 years, really diving deep into this stuff? Because it is a different thing, and some people would be a bit,
My dad is a very Christian based guy. He goes to church every Sunday, sort of a typical Christian based church. And for him, his knee jerk reaction was, it's demonic, it's evil. And and there's, you're not supposed to be talking to beings from other dimensions. That's evil and demonic. And these UFOs, yes, they're there. He's a military guy, and he saw the citizen hearing, and so he believes the testimony of these witnesses. But his perspective was, they all must be demons, and we have to be very careful. So over the years, he's seen that I haven't become possessed, and I'm not running down the streets trying to kill anybody. In fact, I'm like, my message is just
quite the opposite. Yeah, you're pretty welcoming.
I'm trying to uplift humanity and not take it down. So I think he's softened his view. And not fully welcoming the unknown of these the interdimensional beings, but definitely not as judgmental as before. And and not scared so much that I might be going down the wrong path.
Yeah.
And my mom's always kind of been open to this stuff. She's the opposite extreme. She actually was in a cult when I was younger,
Wow.
and that's probably why I have this wide spectrum of things. And for her, it's because she went too extreme the other direction and got into a cult. She's afraid that I might be going into too far and I might be getting sucked into some kind of cult, but she's, for the most part, open minded. She knows. For her, it's hard for her to watch the material because of the cult that she was involved in dealt
flashbacks
with, dealt with beings being channeled through other people. So it is she definitely uses caution as well, and which is totally understandable. I get it on all levels.
Interesting. Mark here says, well, the thing is with UFOs in that the government want to hide the fact they exist so they can continue to control the populace. Just look at COVID and how they've tried to censor the internet.
Yeah.
Well, that's a little bit what you were saying before, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And there's some caution that might be needed in the UFO subject because there could be a twisting of that narrative and to try to use it in a controlling manner. So we do have to keep our eyes out because there might be some groups and people who call them demons and say they're going to come and take over the world and get your weapons and
we'll spin that narrative.
Spin that narrative, exactly. And that's a possibility, but at this point there are too many people having positive experiences with these interactions that I think to spin it is just people being like, what, I'm not buying that one. I think that's it's kind of doesn't feel right. It doesn't make, and also just logically it doesn't feel right because we're talking about interdimensional beings that can travel through space and time faster than the speed of light. So if they have that technology and they really wanted to do harm to us, let me tell you, they would have done it a long time ago. And they would have, we would all be enslaved and wearing chains and mining gold if on their behalf, like centuries ago. They wouldn't wait for us to develop our technology so we get our military built up stronger and better to give them more resistance. Why would they do that? They would, it just doesn't make sense. So they would, I would argue with just pure logic with anybody who thinks they're going to come and rape and pillage us, that they probably would have done it already.
So what do they look like in your mind? Is there do they look like us? Are they formed differently?
I know, as crazy as this sounds, and probably after hearing this, anything goes. The only interaction I've had with a being, so to say, and I haven't had any sort of physical action. This has all been sort of in a meditation or in my mind's eye, if that makes sense, is with or in a room in a dark corner. I could kind of make something out, but it wasn't really, it was kind of a shadow. I couldn't really give it texture or feeling or an actual thing. But in my mind's eye, it looked like a mantis, a giant praying mantis.
Wow. Interesting.
And I've had telepathic communication with that being or those beings. And however, in my show, I interview people who some have physical connections, some have just sort of meditation or dreamlike connections with beings that look just like you and me. Some beings are bigger eyes, bigger heads, all different shapes and sizes. We definitely have the iconic gray alien that most people see in the movies.
Yeah.
And this is just one known from the Zeta Reticuli. That's kind of the common area that group of beings who's interacted with us is come, and this is sort of based on a lot of testimony from different people I've interviewed and talked to. And that's kind of what I do, is I talk to different people, get their inputs, get their experiences, and sort of put it on a record, so to say, and then other people can then chime in and say, oh, I've had an experience with this kind of being or that kind of being, and I'm, in a sense, in my show, I'm trying to create a thesaurus or a glossary of these different beings in different parts of the galaxy, as well as the ones here on Earth, and sort of give a name and a title and a connection. So as collective humanity starts to explore these ideas, they have somewhere to go. They have a dictionary they can look up. Oh, yeah, Reuben's show. They talked about the Zeta Reticuli and this. Oh, yeah, there it is, right there. And yeah, let's go have lunch with those guys. You know.
The gaming cash here says, Mr. Langdon, do you believe meditation is the key way to communicate with these beings, like with a clear mind?
It absolutely is. It is. Something happens when we turn off the noise of our daily lives, of the busyness, and when we go to that quiet place, we allow different thought streams to enter our consciousness. And in meditation, and that's a lot of times where we get inspiration, we get ideas. It's because the mind's quieted enough to you know, it's like the famous you know, Chinese thing where you have to empty your cup to fill it back up, right?
Yeah.
So if your cup is full, you can't get any new lessons or new martial arts skills. You got to empty your cup, empty your mind, be formless, shapeless, like water, as Bruce Lee would say. Mm-hmm. And that's when we can open the door to communication with these beings. And just something to throw out there is to set an intention. Intention is very important in doing anything, I believe, but especially when going into a meditative place, you can sort of make a creed, or this is what a lot of guided meditations that you can find on YouTube and stuff do, is they help set the space through intention to
be a positive one, or
to be a positive one, and to make a connection with a positively oriented being. Because just like
right,
as much positive beings as there are in the universe and the galaxy, there's opposite equal negative energy.
So you believe in those demons, and the Absolutely. Ouija boards and all that sort of jazz as well.
In a sense, and again, the Ouija board, I believe, is a tool that allows charged with positive intention and and creating a safe space, we can connect to positively oriented beings through an Ouija board or through tarot cards and these kinds of things.
Or negative beings.
Or negative beings. If your field is not clear, if you're not, and this is what many of the indigenous cultures from around the world, they create ceremony in order to make contact with positive oriented beings, because they know how important it is to make that safe space. And without doing that, the negative beings can slip in and shift perspectives and create a narrative that's going to feed that energy. Negative beings tend to be of that sort of, going back to this hierarchical sense, where they need to they get fuel from fear. And so they create a fearful environment, or fearful ideas, or fearful thoughts and perceptions of reality, to then gain control, fear, power, to then overrule other beings that are willing to give up their sovereignty, to willing to feed that animal and that machine or that entity, demon, or whatever you want to call it.
Thank you, Dan, for putting this podcast together with Reuben here and having an open mind to listen and engage with what's talked about. Much respect. It's been my pleasure. Wing here says Reuben has ascended. What would you say to that comment?
I I think the ascension process is something that we're going through collectively right now. And I don't think there is ever a completion to the process. The journey, life is always about the journey, not about the destination. We've heard that in our movies and lore all the time. I don't think it's possible to ascend unless I would exit this reality, this planet, this matrix. Perhaps at that point I've ascended, and millions of others who do the same thing, because of old age or whatever, so, but I appreciate, I understand where she's coming from, and to me is, I'm just on the journey, and I've taken a step out of the normal stream of thought and consciousness for a minute because of my wacky, wild experiences. Sort of piqued my curiosity, and then following that curiosity has led me down some crazy paths. It's been quite an adventure, and that's all. I don't think I wouldn't put myself above anybody else or below. I think we're all doing our duty here, and I just I'm following my passion. I'm following my excitement, and I'm reporting it to the world. And for those of you like Dan, to have me on your podcast to talk about this stuff, that just gives me joy, and I'm having fun.
I love it, man. I love it. What? Tell me if I'm going too far with a question, or if you don't want to answer it. But what's your thoughts on someone like Tom Cruise and Scientology?
Yeah, there's some actual really. I've talked to. I have a few friends that are deep into the Scientology thing, and I think there's a lot of positivity that can be obtained from following that path. And just like any type of organized religion or belief structure, there is positivity there. That's most of the time what draws us to those belief systems is because of just the fundamentals, the basics. Family ethics, community, building community, respect for one another. These belief structures, I think most, if not all, major belief structures around the world hold these values in their core, and that's why they have so many followers, because we know that as truth in our core. So we follow along, and we go along them, and and then we adapt a lot of those teachings into our daily life, and it can create positivity, it can create focus, it can create structure for us to follow, and sort of go along. And for whatever, for Tom Cruise, I can't speak for him, but just from being outside looking in, he seems to be using that structure to guide him through his life and make important decisions through his career, and it seems to be working for him. So if it works for you, why not? If it's not working for you, and if it creates negativity in your life, and if you're projecting that on other people, then I would say, hey, put on the brakes. Don't do that. But like my friends that are in the Church of Scientology as well, they seem, I've been trying to, see where they're going to turn and do the, try to suck me in and get me converted, so to say. But that hasn't happened. So until that happens, and until I can see them taking a negative spiral down their life path that may cause havoc. And I've heard stories. I know, my friends might be, but this is with every religion. This is with everything.
There's always a story. Yeah.
There's always a group or a faction that's trying to overbear its power on the others. And if you go against that narrative, then there's resistance. So they mess with your life, they take your, your finances, or that's just the typical story with everything. So I tend to try not to be judgmental of other belief systems until it's not serving the individual and the beings around the individual. At that point is where we can step in and say, okay, we need to make a change here. This is not working out.
Right, cool. I like that answer. Reuben, what would your advice be to give someone who wanted to try psychedelics for the first time? That's from Lion of Dawn.
Set and setting is the most important thing. And then also, in addition to that, it depends on the type of psychedelic, and also the again, going back to set and setting, who are you doing it with, why are you doing it, what's your intention behind it, and is there someone who can take responsibility if things go wrong? Because I've been in situations where things have not been so good.
What do you mean, like in terms of your added, like what happens to
everybody has a different reaction to so psychedelics are very powerful in my mind. They're a very powerful portal opener. They have a different reaction with each person depending on where they're at. Many people, especially these days, especially the younger generations, are already open vessels. They haven't been indoctrinated by the heavy density and the heavy frequencies that I'm 40, what am I now, 45, 46. So
really, you're 46?
Yeah.
Shit, you're doing all right, man.
It's a lot of meditation and eating vegetables.
Yeah.
So I come from in a world, a large portion of my life has been in a heavier world. The younger generation, I've noticed, has also, not to say that that the world is, especially these days, light by any means, but there's a connection to other dimensions that I think is built into the newer generations, because of the frequency of the planet has been shifting and becoming a lighter frequency, a lighter harmonic as we're moving through. So those of us like my age or older perhaps need a little extra, chemical boost to get us to break those barriers that have been the crustiness on the pineal gland that has been built over time. We need a little extra punch to break that, those crystallizations. We've had a little extra fluoride in our system, all these different things. The newer generations, I've noticed, and this is a generalization, this is going to be different for each person. They really don't need these psychedelics. They can simply go into do meditation or breath work. I lead breath work classes every Thursday in my community here, and the young crowds that come in there, they are blasting off like just 30 minutes of breath, and they're in another dimension, and they're able to see and experience things that have taken me years to develop techniques and many ceremonies to
perfect,
achieve the effects that these kids are able to tap into now, just by simple 10 minutes of meditation and some breath work. So so just again, I say that just because psychedelics is not, even though I've had ton of experience with that, and it's been a huge teacher in my life, it's not for everybody. And really do your research. I'm serious research. If that's a path you want to go down, really
don't just
really
jump
research.
into it. Yeah.
don't just jump into it. Yeah, it's again a tool that can be used to build or to break. And I've seen a few nasty cases with some powerful psychedelics like ayahuasca that have taken people down a path, a dark path, and they didn't, their psyche didn't know how to handle it, and afterwards I think there's some damage, meaning that because the portal was open, physically most psychedelics don't have the toxicity of like mushrooms, marijuana, ayahuasca. There's like almost zero toxicity, so you're not going to really get a negative health effect, beneficial. In fact, there's more beneficial properties to them than none for your body. But mentally, it definitely blows a hole in your crown chakra, which allows connection to these other realms. But at the same time, without shamans and people, responsible people who know and can read the energy around you to help you close those portals, because once they're open and then you go out into the world and you expose yourself to other things, that's when these little slippery critters can hop in and do some damage and start taking advantage of the portal that's open. So try to use caution and discernment when using any type of outside source to help you break through to these other realities.
Iago, hey Reuben, the awesome work that you've done on voice acting and being an amazing person over the years has given us all hope. Please keep it up, man.
Will do. Thank you.
I'll give you a couple more because I know you're a very busy man. So is your mission statement, we'll call it, with this show and with your research and everything, just to have more people be open-minded about it and learn more about it and just share that with the world? Is that the goal for you?
Yeah, that and to uplift humanity, to sort of to offer a different operating system for humanity. Not that, you have to drink my Kool-Aid and that's the only Kool-Aid in town, but simply that perhaps by opening your mind and looking at some of these lessons, and that's the way I see it. It's kind of like going to a university or a school or something and getting lessons from these extra dimensional beings, and then incorporating them, because they really do offer a different perspective that it's hard to get when you're in the thick of things. And simply by adoption of some of these perspectives, we can create a new reality here on Earth that can alleviate suffering, alleviate pain, alleviate a lot of the silliness that we have been experiencing for thousands of years. And we're starting to move out just by default. We're starting to move out into a more free world, even though it doesn't seem like that right now because of all of the silliness that's going on. But in reality, if you take a bird's eye view of what's really going on in our development of technology and our methodologies and approaches to how we treat one another, for the most part, again, isolated. If you go on social media, unfortunately, you see a lot of the negative and you don't see the positive. But I do think we're moving in that direction by default, and by taking in some of these lessons, we can get there a little bit faster and with a little bit more ease. We don't have, because usually in human evolution, usually there's been some sort of negative force injected into our way of life, and then we have to band together to overcome that negative force, and that gives us an extra step in our evolution. We had this in World War II with the development of the atomic bomb, and we entered into the atomic world, which has given us a lot of energy for us to use for different applications. Unfortunately, most of that has been for the war machine, but a lot of it we get electricity and these kinds of things from it. So just using that as an example, that out of chaos comes evolution. But maybe
Right.
if we took time to observe, and before it got so chaotic, we can sort of go down a path of evolution still without having to fully engage in the chaos.
Wow. Great answer to that question, man. Yeah, I could listen to you for hours. So, where can everyone find this show, mate? And how do we learn more?
So the website, the best place is the website, interviewwithed.org. It's all one word. And ed stands for extra dimensionals. My own personal website, reubenlangdon.com. It's just my first name and last name. That also will get you there. And some of my other work too, obviously in the video game world, but the citizen hearing is also, there's a portal there you can click into. And yeah, it's just I'm working on season 3 right now. So season 1 and 2 were on the Gaia network, and haven't gotten the renewal from them for season 3 yet. So I've just decided to put out season 3 on my own, and it's on Vimeo. But all those links and everything are right through the website.
Beautiful, mate. Just quickly, Yago says, Reuben, become a professor. From what you've been telling us, you can help the world out and create positive energy and give the world great evolution.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that. It's not me giving the world evolution as much as just pointing out the path, because it all exists right now. We have the technology to, without the aliens landing and without we can fix every problem on the planet. And I've made it my life's work to look at these problems and to find the solutions that already exist. And I just like to point to the solutions, because so much of the time we're focused on the negativity, which tends to be a distraction from bigger things that are going on behind the scenes and keeps us from seeing the real bigger issues.
Wow, fascinating. And just quickly before I let you go, I wanted to ask you about the African fruit bath that you had. You know that story?
Yeah.
Yeah, can you please tell that to the listeners? I just want to hear it again.
Sure. Actually, that was my first psychedelic experience.
Yep.
Which was not based on, it was my own brain producing the psychedelics to get me to that state.
But was that because it was so painful? Do I remember you saying? Yeah.
Exactly. The most painful experience I've ever had in my life was, and I've broken bones and been, stuntman and done a lot of gnarly things.
And this was the worst.
And this was the worst. It was 30 minutes, and it was the worst pain I've ever felt.
Shit.
And it's so my dear friend who's passed, the late Marcus Lovemore, who was my Qigong teacher. He was a remarkable man with energy and diet. Taught me a lot about eating clean and energy and food. And he offered this thing called the Phoenix Bath, which was
Phoenix Bath.
Which was he did a lot of consultation for people that had cancer and other ailments, that physical ailments that couldn't be cured. And one of his offerings was this Phoenix Bath for people with severe health issues. And he said, even if you don't have health issues, it's a great detox, and it puts you in a psychedelic state, which makes you tell the truth. Sort of like, I guess, like waterboarding, if you and so I was like, oh great. He's like, yeah, you can. So part of the process is I had to write down 5 questions that I wanted to ask myself, because he said once you're in it, you cannot lie to yourself. And that's what really piqued my interest. I was like, the physical detox was like just the byproduct. I was like, well, that's cool. Get some healthy things going in here, but I really want to find out about myself, and ask the universe and ask questions. So it was like an ayahuasca ceremony. There was a preparation of a few days that I had to go on a special diet, raw vegan, and then fast for a day or so. And then and he prepared it. We went to a hotel room with a big like whirlpool, so it was like a big bath because you had to get all the way in it. You didn't want to get in a halfway. And him and his partner, they prepared it, and he's wearing a mask and gloves. It's African bird fruit. It's the hottest pepper in I think known to man, and that grows. And he made these big tea bags of this pepper, and he would put it in there. And there's some other things in there. He mixed the herbs together, and you go in it, and
it feels super hot, or what?
It was a very hot bath too. So first 30 seconds, it was like, oh, this is nothing. And then it just kicks in and you're like, whoa, it's like on your skin, just everything starts burning. And first thing to go was the special parts.
Oh, and good. Bit of shrinkage.
That was just like, when I say go, literally in 5 minutes, it was like it didn't exist.
Oh my God.
The pain was so intense that it just went numb, and then I forgot I had male parts.
Wow.
And then the rest of my body just started to really just burn and burn and burn and burn, and the pain got so intense.
Did you ever want to you were going to get out, or you were going
to? But this is the other thing, is he wears these long gloves. So if you ever try to get out, you commit to a time. You say, okay, I think the minimum was 25 minutes, and then you can go up to whatever time you want. And I said, okay, well, 30 minutes, I'll go 5 minutes above the minimum. And he's like, okay. So he won't let you out.
Oh my goodness.
Until you've gone through your 30-minute process. And he's there using his Qigong Kung Fu powers to make sure you stay in there. And I had experienced, the person who went before me tried to get out, and he used his Qigong powers. And I'm like, yep, there's no getting out of that one.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just knew resistance was futile, right? So, so I stayed in the bath. And I don't know, after a certain amount of time, I think I just forgot I even had a body, and I exited my body, and I started transmitting sort of in a channeling state. Which I've heard the recording, and I have no recollection of saying those things.
Really?
So I was kind of out of my mind, out of my body. And I talked about Archangel Metatron, of all things, which I didn't really even have much of a connection at that time. Since then, I've looked into that and started researching.
Did you get the answers that you were looking for, or what were the answers like? Yeah.
I was sort of asking who my guides were, and Archangel Metatron came in, and some geometry. It's been so long that I forgot all the details, but but I definitely, and I saw geometry and sort of like a psychedelic experience. I had these visions that at the time I was just, again, I was gone, and then I sort of came back. He's like, okay, we're done. And then, I came out of the bath. They wrapped me in ice sheets and put garlic on the bottom of my feet I think it pulls toxins. And it was quite the experience. Now I'm like, yeah, I think I could do that again. But at the time, I had never really been drunk. I had never had any psychedelic experiences. So that was my first psychedelic experience, which was triggered by probably pain receptors and fight or flight or whatever it is. It just the dopamine, the everything was just going straight out of survival. Okay, you're either going to stay in here and endure this excruciating pain, or you can go somewhere else and explore another part of the universe. And that's what I did.
Far out, man. I had to get people to hear that story, because I've heard a little bit about it, but you've given a few more insights, which is great. But
Sweet.
No, mate, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. Thanks for giving up the last 90 minutes of your time.
No, well, thank you for letting me spew out my my craziness. And
no craziness here. No craziness here. Love it, mate. Well, make sure you check out Reuben's show, guys. I'll leave links in the description. And I look forward to doing this again, mate.
For sure. Absolutely. Thanks, Dan. Thanks for having me on.
Take care, mate.
All right.
And there you have it, everybody. What an interesting conversation we've had here today. I know a lot of you guys are going to really enjoy that one because it's a little bit different to our usual stuff. A little bit different in terms of the topics. You know, we talk a lot about voice actors and gaming and things of that nature around here. But I knew a little bit of change of pace can't go astray. So Mikey Fluffy, that was fun. The Hunter, Daniel, enjoyed it. Awesome interview. Maxi Jar, how are you? It's good to see you. Late Hawk, amazing. Thanks, Dan. Another awesome show, sir. Jumped on at the end. Been in a funk with these algorithms. Get my stuff out there. Looking forward to the next one. Thank you, Northern. Appreciate it. Just Vincent, absolute legend. Always here. Mind blown, Blue Demon. Yeah. Very interesting stuff, eh? That was an amazing interview. I appreciate it. Learn much more about Reuben than I ever knew beforehand. Yeah. Dan, have him back if you can. Yeah, I'm sure I'll have him back at some point. Don't you worry. That is the deepest interview. Haha, DMC and Alien crossover, exactly. For some reason, this one felt very necessary, yeah. We have to thank you for being patient. I was having all sorts of issues, but we got them sorted. So thanks for everyone that was waiting around a little bit there. I appreciate it. New experience for me, yeah. So next up, guys, in a couple of days' time, we've got Steve, who is who was the motion capture director for Village. In an exclusive interview with me, we're going to go into all the details on Village and shooting with Maggie and Nicole, and if there was some cut scenes there, and try and get a bit of DLC information out of him. We definitely won't, but I'll try. So we've got Steve coming on. And then, guys, we've got the voice of Mario. Can you believe this? How far this show's come. It started back with Call of Duty actors, and now we've got the voice of Mario coming on. Can you believe that? So that'll be awesome. I mean, he's done the voice for so long. He also does Luigi and a bunch of other characters as well. So, that'll be fantastic. And of course, when Far Cry comes out, we're going to try and get that cast on. Battlefield, Call of Duty, Dying Light, Halo. When Halo comes out, Steve Downs, we've got to get him on. That's a big guest we've got to try and get on. And of course, any other big titles, we're going to try and get these guys on. It's fascinating. This one was a change of pace today. It was a lot of alien talk and spiritual stuff and that side of things. And I knew that going in, and I just thought it'd be very interesting for you guys to hear some different perspectives and a bit of a different show. So, and also, oh yeah, guys. So, are you familiar with the Sphere Hunter, Susie? You familiar with her? Resident Evil, great Resident Evil videos. Really good cyberpunk video. Again, Devil May Cry videos. She's done a lot of sort of in-depth analysis on these games. Yeah, Susie and I are going to have a chat as well. So that's happening probably next week. So you guys are going to probably enjoy that one as well. She and I are going to get chatting. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. And she's the first sort of YouTuber I've had on or going to have on. So, but it felt like the right time. And of course, we've got a lot in common. She's actually been a fan of mine as well for a while. I think she found me through the Cyberpunk interviews I did with some of the cast over there. And I've been a fan of hers for years as well. So it'll be good to come together and chat. she is going to have her camera on as well. I did ask her that because, you know, sometimes she doesn't, but she's going to get her camera on. So that'll be fun. Yeah. But guys, I got to walk my dog. She's busting to go for a walk. So look, it's been an absolute pleasure. If you could do me a favor, leave a like on the video. Subscribe if you haven't. And let me know on Twitter or Instagram. Just send me a message. Who do you want on next? What sort of characters or people do you want me to get on or try to get on? Let's say that. But for now, guys, it's been my absolute pleasure. Have a seat at the bar. Have a game of pool. And take care, everybody.